child because that child can't make it through the night without crapping.
It's like, oh, you're not my dog anymore. I'm walking away. I'm going over here. Oh, you're not my puppy anymore.
Pitch. Ooh, there's been studies of this. It's called motherese.
Because if you're carrying an 80-pound golden retriever from the puppy pen to the backyard, you probably made a mistake somewhere along the line, okay?
Some say these two trainers were quietly in the shadows. Robert Weatherwax, last of the legendary Lassie trainers, from the world's greatest movie dog training family, was quietly hidden in his TV work. And Christoph Clugston, elite action K9 trainer, was traveling from the sub-zero Arctic to the sweltering jungle heat, training dogs on 3 continents. But a chance meeting changed all of that. Now, Robert and Christoph have joined forces and they're breaking the silence. For the first time, the secretive and hidden world of the movie dog trainer and the science of the elite tactical trainer will be revealed. That's right, they are out of the shadows. Welcome to Tactical Practical.
This episode is by viewer demand, and people ask me about, hey, how about puppies? This episode is about puppies, especially the first 24 hours with the puppy. And there's going to be a lot here, and we're going to go through a whole checklist of things. But one of the things I want to say is that you got to plan before you get the puppy. You can't wait until you get the puppy. Sometimes you might find yourself saving a dog, rescuing a dog on the side of the road or something like that. Then you can't plan ahead. But all the other cases besides that, you need to plan ahead. And there are some things that I'll just cover immediately. Just list them that you should get hold of. You need to worry about what the dog is going to eat out of. And I would not use plastic. Do not use plastic bowls because the dogs can chew them, they can ingest them, and you can have a dead dog. So use metal or stoneware. Okay? So that's one of the things. You need a crate. You're going to need bedding. We're going to cover that. Robert's going to cover something about that, and I'm going to say something else too on that. You need the crate, bedding. You need a collar. Of course, if the dog is small, you're going to keep changing collars, but you just need a collar because you want to start teaching leash things. And for leash work, you don't need the big 50-footer yet, but there are lighter lines you can use, so you need that. And you also have to think about grooming, so you need a brush. If you get a dog that's short-haired, like a pointer, for example, a short-haired or a Chihuahua, less grooming is involved. But if you're getting an old English sheepdog or a rough collie, you're going to definitely need to be grooming the dog, and there's a lot that's important about that. So those are the first things that you need to take care of. You're going to need to set up an area for the dog. The dog needs to feel safe in this area, and the dog is off limits to other people in this area. He's got to feel that he has a den. Dogs are denning animals, so they need an area that they're going to feel safe in. We'll get more into that. And you also have to decide ahead of time if you're going to allow the dog to have access to all of the house or just part of the house or just one room. And from there's a lot to talk about, but I want you to think ahead. My first purpose here is to make you think ahead about what you need to acquire before you get the puppy. And then we're going to talk about, of course, it's going to change somewhat on how old the puppy is. Now, puppies, depending on the size of the dog that he'll end up being or the breed of the dog, that's going to be different ages. But that I would consider the puppy. But if we start talking about the puppy at 8 weeks, don't really take the dog at 7 weeks. If you happen to breed dogs and live with dogs, you'll know that you can be with the dogs. The humans can be around the dogs like at 6 weeks, but don't take the dogs at 6 weeks. It causes huge problems. Or 7 weeks, it causes huge problems with dogs. Their psychology changes a great deal because they don't get the environmental nurturing that they need. Anyway, so there's a lot here. I shotgunned a bunch of it because I want you to think ahead. I'm strafing you to make you think. Robert's going to delve into some particulars and stuff. Robert, so take it away with the puppy.
Okay, well, very good point before I go into anything else is to elaborate on when you should get a puppy. They shouldn't be made available any sooner than 8 weeks. Typically 10 weeks is even better. But you should be aware of that, because what he was referring to is you get socialization problems like aggressiveness and protectiveness and a lot of things that you don't see typically in puppies. But I think the biggest thing about puppies is you have to look at, the way that, you're going to be training them at some point. You're going to be training them with a softer hand because when they're young, I find that my training, a lot of people see my training when I'm training puppies and they don't really know what it is I'm doing because I'm not using really any real training. I'm using manipulation. I'm getting the dog to manipulate into different positions to get comfortable in that position, get them used to a mark, get them used to sitting, getting used to lying down. Even if they don't have to stay there or they don't want to stay there, I'm just getting them used to their muscles moving that way. And of course, the first thing I'm going to delve into is housebreaking because that's what most people think of the first time they get a puppy. Now, as far as housebreaking goes, you have to look at a puppy, especially when they're very young. They don't really have any bladder control, so those muscles aren't really developed. So when they pee on your rug, it's not an act of defiance. It's an act of lack of self-control. So if you look at it that way, if you look at them needing a certain thing, when they're young, that's what they need. They need to be monitored a lot. And what I would do when I bring a dog into the house is I wouldn't bring them directly in the house because in my book I talk about how it's kind of like carrying a pitcher of water that if you put it down it always spills. So don't put your puppy down in the house when you first arrive. Take them to the backyard or wherever you think is going to be their regular place to go to the bathroom typically. And I don't want you to stand on the porch either. You need to go out to the deepest part of the yard so the dog will follow you away from the house. Otherwise, they're just going to stand there, and just like next to you, like, where are we going? I don't see what's going on here. So lead them away from the house. And keep in mind that dogs are crafty. A lot of times what they'll do is they'll wait because they'd rather go in the house. You've let them do it, maybe, at some point. And they think, I like peeing in the kitchen better than I like peeing in the backyard. So that's what they start doing. And you don't enforce it, so it creates a pattern that they continue to exploit. So what I would suggest is, like Christoph mentioned, is getting a safe place. I typically recommend, it could be a crate, but it's got to be fairly large if it's going to be a place they can go to the bathroom in. But I typically use a puppy pen, which is one of those four-sided gated areas, and I cover it with newspaper in my case. Christoph may have different ideas of what to cover it with, but I don't use puppy pads because they have a fragrance, and a lot of dogs like to chew them. So I'm not really big on puppy pads, but they can be useful if you're trying to get the dog to start going towards the door. Sometimes I'll put a puppy pad by the door, so at least it gives them a directional clue as to where they're eventually going to be going out, assuming you don't have a doggy door. But anyways, what happens is if they don't go outside, the penalty is that they go into the puppy pen with the covered surface. Now, they're going to have to go in one of those places. They're eventually going to explode. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. So you want to just, keep shifting them back and forth until they go in one of those places. When they go in one of those places, then they get freedom. Freedom is the reward. There isn't any food reward. You can reward them outside or if you want for going to the bathroom, but after they complete the action. You want to make it a good thing. If they're going to go to the bathroom, acknowledge that they went to the bathroom. Oh my God, that's such a good dog, yay. But don't do it until they complete the action because they might stop in the middle and then have to go again to complete the action in the house. So just be very wary of not letting them go in places that you don't want them to go, and give them the freedom they deserve in the event that they do go. Also, keep the feeding consistent. 3 times a day, no free feeding, because that way you'll know when they go, because it kind of goes right through them, right? The water, you got to monitor the water, you got to monitor the play, because all those things will induce urination. And that's something that, and if you're outside and they just stand next to you and don't want to go, take a few steps away so the dog will have to move. Because what you're trying to do is create movement so that hanger door bay will open up on the dog, right? And then everything comes out. So I'm going to hand it back to Christoph, and I'm going to let him kind of go from there.
Like I started out saying, there's so many things, and we could just do a whole episode just on this house training. And something that I need to say is, Robert's talking about the dog urinating, defecating. This is something like, okay, no one expects a human baby to control things. They don't. But suddenly you want a dog who's much smaller, is even smaller than a human, control all these things. They can't do it. They cannot do it. And I want to go. The mother is the one who creates the elimination for the dogs when they're young, and that's by licking them on the stomach. And so one of the things that you can do is have a warm washcloth and rub the stomach area, and this will induce, like Robert's talking about, urination definitely, but also defecating too. So be ready, but you need to do this, and you also need to realize that every 20 minutes when the dog is young, that this dog may be urinating or need to go to the bathroom. That is just how it is. So you cannot sleep. You cannot try to put them on. I had people, I don't understand, the dog can't make 8 hours. The dog can't make an hour. So you need to think about this ahead of time. You don't try to make a child, hey, that child, I'm going to kill that child because that child can't make it through the night without crapping. You know what I mean? But people switch their expectations on canines that are unbelievably unrealistic. So you got to realize that the dogs need to defecate and urinate often, and when they're taking in water, like Robert's saying, they're almost like a sieve. It's just gonna in and out, which is good. It's healthy. They need that. And if they are retaining, like I'm saying, you need to do the same thing the mother did initially, because they cannot. That's how they learn how to urinate. Actually, they can't do it on their own. It's the stimulation. It's a set up a nervous system thing, reaction to that. This is the tongue of the mother across the genitals of the puppy. That's what makes them eliminate originally. And you can continue doing that with a washcloth that makes sure it's warm. Don't put any ice or anything on it. And you're going to do this, but you have to realize that you're going to you cannot sleep when you have a puppy. You cannot just have this normal life that you thought you were going to do, follow your routine. Your routine has to be based around the puppy. And you have to make a commitment to this. This is one of the things I think we need to get across. This is vitally important. And what Robert was saying about you need to establish places that the dog can go, because dogs will start fixating on patterns quite early. And also, by the way, with urination, the smell of urine will make them want to urinate. That's why male dogs later, whenever they smell another male dog's urine, they will urinate. It's part of the olfactory response. So if they do pee on your floor, you need to use things that will fight and enzymatically break down the odors and stuff, so that it's not there anymore beyond what a human can smell, because that will induce them to go find that spot again and pee in it again. So you need to create that spot, like Robert said, inside of the puppy pen, like he's talking about, or outside, and it's definitely outside. And now, one thing we kind of assumed was that you have a front yard or a backyard. You may live in an apartment, so you have to start training. I know people they'll train the dog to try to use that gutter area right there, right off the curb. In fact, there were people in big cities called curb your dog. That's what that meant, is to have them go to the bathroom right there. This is a little more difficult, but because dogs will want to go in a soft area. They will prefer grass over concrete every time. So if you need to find a
What
patch,
you can do is you can use that patio and get some grass, patches of grass, and put it on the patio. Mm-hmm. Some people have done that before. Yeah. Because it simulates grass. It's sod, basically.
Right. Yeah. Or there's artificial. Some pet dog makers have started producing like artificial grass stuff. So for that very reason. But these are things that you need to think of ahead of time. Like I'm saying, unless you're rescuing a dog alongside the road or something, you should think ahead, and we're giving you the ammo so that you can be prepared and loaded up for all these things. Because you got to think your schedule changes. Your schedule now becomes what the puppy's schedule is. And you also have to think ahead about the feedings, like Robert's saying. You need to make these regular, because that will establish a regular pattern with the puppy, because the puppies will eliminate on a certain amount. It's almost clockwork at 20 minutes. It's going to be within 20 minutes of eating or drinking, they're going to need to go to the bathroom. So you can start establishing this, unless there are reasons why you may not want to, but that would be a different type of thing. And you can talk to me on a consult about that. What type of dogs that you would not put on that. Sled dogs would be one. Some tactical dogs would be another. But that's a whole lot more commitment. When we're talking about the normal pet dog owner or first time puppy owner, so you want to make it fixed patterns. You want to start early with the fixed patterns, like Robert's saying, and you want to start like he was saying, you reward them by the high tone, the high pitch. Ooh! There's been studies of this. It's called motherese because in almost every language across the world, there's 6,000 of them. Mothers talk to their children. They raise up higher, make it longer, and that's how people will talk to dogs too. It's just kind of a subconscious thing, but it works. It's not saying it doesn't work. It works, and this is what Robert's talking about. Talking, oh yeah, you're such a great dog, blah 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 blah, and something else you can add. I'll say this, and I'll turn it back to Robert because there's so many different categories we can talk. But you want to try to start giving a signal word when they're going to the bathroom, like when they're doing this. You could, whatever. Some people have the most incredibly stupid things. I think they try to make it mean something in English. Oh, that's such a great bathroom. Oh, you did such a good present for Daddy. You know, what is that? You know, it's just ridiculous. You can have anything. Yeah, you know, yeah. That alone, that's good enough. Put him outside, and you start going, yeah. Then he knows that's the signal to go to the bathroom. Anyway. Robert, after that, it's your turn.
Yeah, well, the voice is a big part of it. You know, you're using that baby voice, but be careful how you use that. Only use that when they're doing something you like. Because if you're using that voice when they're jumping on you, that's not a good thing. Because then you're going to be, you know, inducing more of that kind of behavior. We don't want to encourage that ever, bad behavior. So when bad behavior comes, I don't really get mad at puppies. I get silent on puppies. It's like, oh, you're not my dog anymore. I'm walking away. I'm going over here. Oh, you're not my puppy anymore. And that's kind of the attitude I take with puppies. I mean, I deny them me. You know, I deny them my attention. That's how you punish a puppy. You know, there used to be all these sayings about how, you know, you rub a dog's nose in the place they went, you know, 5 hours later, like they're going to remember whose that was, right? That could have been yours for all they know, right? So really, you know, it's ridiculous to think that dogs have some kind of photographic memory because they don't. Another thing I mentioned, I probably didn't mention enough, whenever you're taking the dog, you know, from the place that, you know, the inside bathroom to the outside bathroom, make sure you carry them. Do not let them walk through your house because they will pee on the way, right? It almost always happens. So always carry them. That's the great thing about puppies. You can carry them. You know, I mean, even St. Bernard puppies can be carried, right? So if your dog, you can no longer carry him anymore, then you probably already missed the boat on housebreaking. You know what I'm saying? Because if you're carrying an 80-pound golden retriever from the puppy pen to the backyard, you probably made a mistake somewhere along the line, okay? So, yeah, just be real aware of being consistent and not letting them get away with things because, oh, I'm busy. You know, what I do is a lot of times people will get up in the morning and the first thing that will happen is that, oh, my God, the phone rang. And they've got the puppy. They're ready to take him out. They put the puppy down. He craps right there in front of them. You know, just put him in the puppy pen. That's what it's for. You know, there's times out here in Texas we have these horrendous storms. And there's no way that they can go outside. A lot of dogs aren't going to go outside when there's lightning hitting the ground on the other side of the fence and there's terrible winds and the rain's pouring down. Oh, go ahead, go to the bathroom. No, they're not going to go to the bathroom. So I tell my clients a lot of time that whether or not, even if you're not puppy training your dog, if you have, especially if you have a small dog, you have an alternative place for them to go to the bathroom indoors. And I suggest that in order to get them to like the place they have to stay, because it's not punishment, it's a sanctuary, but it's not a prison, okay? It's not supposed to be. You're just taking away the freedom of having the rest of the house. So what I do is I put the food and the water all in that place with the door open. So the dog can go in and out and begin to see that that place is a necessary place for them, that their subsistence is provided through that avenue. And they learn that, oh, I like to be in here. A lot of times you'll see them in the puppy pen or in the crate, voluntarily because, hey, they like it. Like, good things happen here. I'm just going to hang out here. And what better place for them to hang out if they suddenly decide they have to go to the bathroom, right? Mm-hmm. So you're already in the place, because if they're feeding them where they're going to go to the bathroom, typically they'll just go straight from the bowl to taking a pee. And keep in mind, too, that males, I've noticed over the years, I'm not a scientist or anything, there are exceptions, but males typically will not poop until they've drained all their urine. Females are a little bit different. They can literally pee and poop at the same time, practically. But males need to do their peeing first. Very rare do you see a dog full of urine, a male dog, who craps right away. It's typically going to be the pee. So when the pee's all gone and they've just eaten, and you're thinking, should I let them have freedom because they peed? Mm-hmm. Give them some freedom, but monitor them. Some of the things that you'll look for when they're about to poop is they'll sniff in one particular place or circle, do little circles. And also, that's why Christoph mentioned keeping those extra room doors closed, because that's just less room you have to monitor with the puppy. If the puppy doesn't have access to a room, he's not going to do something in there you don't want him to do. It's like kids. If you ever hear kids get quiet and there's a bedroom door open across the house, they're in there about to burn your house down, okay? Because when kids get quiet, same with dogs, they're up to no good. If you can't see them and you can't hear them, you should be worried, right? So that's my advice on puppies. They're a lot like kids. They don't have this huge memory. And as far as training goes, if you do any training with them, you can do training. But like I say, you get them used to the leash. You get them to do some easy things. Get them to stay on a mark. And you have to give them more recess, though. Puppies tend to mentally exhaust themselves like every 5-10 minutes. Yeah. So you give them 5-10 minutes, then you give them 5 minutes of just playing around. And then back to work. So you get them used to a regimen. But it's just like kindergarten. There's a recess bell and there's also a class bell. So make sure that your dog knows when you take that leash and collar off that, okay, you can play now. But when you put it back on, it's time for business. And that can be established early. It doesn't have to be something that you wait, later on to do because you think you're being mean to the dog by teaching him rules. It's going to be much easier if you teach it now than if you slack on it now and then try to enforce it later. So, keep that in mind, that the best rule of thumb is start training your dog from day one. Don't wait until things go crazy and you lose it. Get him into a pattern. Even if he's not making any mistakes, he or she, you have to, give them a pattern that you like. And reward them for all the good things they do. Don't just reprimand them for all the things they don't do or they do wrong. Dogs need praise. And if your praise is very high, then you might have to make your correction a little higher, too. It's kind of a balance, a teeter-totter. You can't use a ton of praise and then no correction. And you can't use a ton of correction and no praise. So just remember about the teeter-totter, as I mentioned in my book. Keep everything, what was Carl Miller said? He said, balance correction with affection. And you'll never go wrong with a puppy. Isn't that right, Christoph?
Yeah, there's a lot of things here, and it delves into you're setting up for future. And once again, I'm going to say it here. Robert's going to get sick of hearing this because he hears it all the time, because I say it all the time. If you're a dog owner, you're a dog trainer. If you're a dog owner, you're a dog trainer. Even if you think you're not, you are training the dog. And especially as a puppy, you are doing things that are making behaviors and starting patterns. So you might as well start the patterns correctly that will lead to success later. Now, one of the things that a big change for a lot of regimented dog trainers, you'll still find people in certain places that still believe this. You cannot start training the dog before he's 6 months or even a year old because of the way that they were training them. And we start at 7 or 8 weeks now. The sooner you can start, the better off. And because you're using a specific type of techniques, and that is, I'm not training longer than 1 or 2 minutes, because the dog's focus, the puppy's focus, they don't have it. Plus, it's only on the positive reinforcement. I only give them positive reinforcement. There are no corrections. There's nothing. There's just either they do it or I just, what's Robert saying, remove myself, and they lose the chance of getting a reward. And remember again, who are you going to work for? Are you going to work for a boss who tells you, hey, you did a good job, or are you going to work for the boss who pays you money? So these puppies are going to work for you better when you're giving them food, and you cannot. This is one of the things some of these people, well, that's bribery. Yeah, like you're going to work as a bribery? Are you working? How many people are you working for that say, hey, Fred, great job. Great job. And, hey, you parked in the wrong spot today. You're jerking Fred around in the parking lot. This is...
And you're not paying him either.
Yeah, you're not. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You're not paying Fred at all. Or Fred shows up, parks really great, and you're like, hey, Fred, $700. You think Fred's going to want to show up, and you don't think Fred's going to do that behavior over and over again. Same thing with puppies. That's the way you got to be with, dogs too, but with puppies, you want to found that because you want to be the good guy to the dog, to the puppy. What we're setting up again is, like I talked about, there's a reinforcement history, and there are spots, like we're talking about the marks and stuff. Our platforms, these become reinforcement places, and I'll talk about the crate before I forget about that in a moment. But you're setting yourself up as the reinforcement. You're the good guy. You're the guy with the money. You're the guy, you're the fun time. Like, some of you may have friends, and maybe some of you are even cool enough to be the one that everyone's, hey, when that guy shows up, man, it's going to be cool because he's always funny. He's always entertaining. It's always a great time. And that's what you are to the puppy. You got to become that. You got to be that. And the crate. Now, let me say this about the crate. When Robert's talking about because I had to fly with my dogs, and I had to get my jungle dog. I captured my jungle dog, and I thought we were leaving after I captured him. Originally, I thought we were going to leave like in 3 weeks. This dog had never had a collar, never had a leash, never lived indoors, never anything. So I'm doing all these things, and he's never been in a crate before. So how do I start getting him ready for this enormous 29-hour flight that he's going to have to go on? Everything is in the crate. He eats and drinks in the crate. He always ate or drank in the crate. And this is what you start doing. Now, the dogs will not defecate or urinate in their sleeping den area unless they're really pushed. So the crates are not the area for them to do that. So the crate, you want to make the crate, like I was talking about with my dog, the jungle dog. You're getting the dog used to being in the crate by always something positive is happening, eating or drinking in the crate, only in the crate. So that's what I did. And the same thing with the puppies. You can have them eat and drink only in the crate with the door open again, and so they can come and go. And the perfect situation, of course, is to have the crate inside the puppy pen that Robert's talking about, so that the dog can go into the crate to eat and drink and sleep, but can be in the puppy pen if he has to go to the bathroom. This is the thing about this. That's the ideal situation, and this will will create great behaviors, and a relationship will start forming with your puppy that will pay dividends later when you start training the dog even further, or depending on what your goals are with the dog, what the goals are to be with that puppy. Is that puppy just a pet dog? Is the puppy going to be in the movies, the film work? He's going to be a tactical dog? Is he going to be a sport obedience competitive dog? Is he going to be a hunting dog? All these things we can start doing, but the foundation is pretty much all the same. I mean, that's one of the things where people have started changing this, and this is something I will say that is incredibly important. This is so important that seeing eye guide dog people in Canada, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, dogs, and in the United States with some of the programs for the Department of Defense, puppies and stuff, they have designated people who take care of these puppies and do all these things we're talking about, and do the socialization, all these things is so crucial to turning out dogs that will pass the higher standards that they need later on to become specific types of dogs. This is so crucial that people have actually designated parts, especially with the seeing eye dogs, guide dogs. They started this early. They started because they saw that this was enormously important. It's not just picking the right dogs, and they've crossbred. I know in the UK they've crossed golden retrievers with Labradors. Those are the best, and females are the best had the highest percentage of passing to be a seeing eye dog, because it's extremely stressful on those dogs, and it's really difficult because they're working all the time. They don't have any days off. Anyway, but it's so crucial to those dogs that the early part is what makes or breaks them, can be. So, Robert, back to you after.
I think that a lot of people enjoy hearing about, growing up with Lassie and all that. And I will tell you that my grandfather was training puppies. Of course, we were breeding the puppies and we were training the puppies. But he was training dogs at 3 weeks, 4 weeks, just basic stuff. He'd put a little tether on their neck and he'd have them come from like maybe that far away. Just stuff like that, And it was like, I thought it was incredible that, every day was a training day at the Weatherwax household. We didn't have, we didn't just like lock up the dog and go about our lives. I mean, the dog was part of everything we did. When we were working at home, having the puppy out, working with the puppy, that's how we determined which was going to be the best Lassie. We were always looking for the markings, obviously, looking for the 4 white legs, the white chest, the blaze, the tricolored features. But once we had, say, 3 dogs that had the right features, now we're looking for the dog that has the right stuff. And the only way we're going to determine whether a dog has the right stuff is how he performs against his peers, specifically, in this case, his litter mates. A lot of times I want to dispel a myth that a lot of veterinarians want to tell you, and that's that litter mates cannot coexist together, which is absolutely ridiculous. I've had litter mates that fought, and I could fix that, and then they could live harmoniously sleeping together in the same bed, that kind of thing. Even if there is a problem with litter mates, they can be fixed. It's not a death sentence. I was raising Lassies with my dad and my grandfather, part of that whole process of breeding year after year for the next Lassie, right? And, we ended up giving a lot of dogs away. We sold some dogs. We gave some dogs away and giveaways and stuff like that. But, it was around the clock. We didn't have any breaks from it. So I just say that if you get a dog, whether it's a puppy or an adult dog, you're going to have to invest in, invest some time in that whole process. If you're not willing to invest the time, then you really, should probably get a hamster or, a cat, something like that. It's kind of funny too. I like to tell the joke about, women say, I like this guy, but he's never been married, right? He's never been married, and he only has cats. I'm like, well, I think you probably stay away from that. Because, if he likes cats, then that means he's going to treat you like a cat, right? He's not going to give you the kind of attention that a dog deserves, right? A lot of people say, well, I'm going to get a pet. What should I get, a dog or a cat? And they say, why don't you make a commitment and get yourself a dog? So that's what it's all about. It's all about commitment. I remember the joke somebody told me about breakfast, the pig and the chicken. You want to be like the pig when it comes to breakfast. You don't want to be like the chicken because the pig is committed, but the chicken is only involved. So keep in mind that it's all the way that you look at it, the way you approach puppy ownership that'll make you the best puppy owner and trainer, as Christoph says, that you can be. And our goal is to make all of you owners trainers because, the next step is right in front of you. All you have to do is keep tuning into our show and keep listening what we have, because we're trying to give you not just perspective on how to train, but perspective on how to read your dog, understand your dog, things that they don't teach you in schools, and also to understand that every dog has a different plan. Every dog has a different approach that has to be taken. You might have 2 litter mates, came from the same place, same mother and father, but they're completely different. And you have to respect that individuality in dogs just like you respect the individuality in children. I remember in elementary school, do you remember how they used to dress up twins in the same clothing? You know, it's like, oh, here's Timmy and Mikey, you know, wearing the same blue shirt and all this stuff. I'm like, no, you're killing your identity, you know. Give them an identity. Do not make them a carbon copy of somebody else. And that's the way you got to do it with your dog, whether you get 2 puppies from the same litter, 2 puppies from different litters, or just 1 puppy. It's the same process. You know, look at them as individuals and train them as if, you know, you've never trained a dog like that dog ever before in your life. And you can do it because once you've trained so many dogs, it's so much easier to adapt from one breed, one type of dog, the different ages. And keep in mind, too, all those bladder problems you have with the puppy, those muscles begin to strengthen. And, of course, you also have to deal with teething and a lot of stuff like that. Because keep in mind, chewing is not an act of aggression. Yeah. Chewing is simply a necessity. Yeah. Because when those teeth are coming in behind the other ones, the baby teeth, and pushing them out, it hurts like hell. And all they want to do is chew on something. So if you get them a rag or a towel, you're gonna be able to keep yourself from getting scratches and bites all over your body. Because I say it all the time. My dog's just biting the hell out of me, and I'm like, "Where are his toys?" Well, one's on the couch and one's up on the cupboard. I'm like, "Well, the puppy can't reach them there." You got to make this stuff accessible for the puppy, and if you're going to make it accessible in the place you want him to go to the bathroom. It all is a big circle that leads back to the same place, which is the center. And then from the center, we branch out into different areas: housebreaking, understanding, you know, where not to go. Bringing in another dog, bringing in a baby, all these things represent changes in a dog's life, and especially in a puppy's life. Even if you change the furniture in your house, let the puppy see the change that it's undergoing, so it's not a surprise to them, so they don't feel like they've walked in the wrong house. You know, everything is, you know, you have to nurture these little guys because they don't know what's going on, and they don't have any control over their bodily functions. And it's up to you to be the bigger person, to be the leader, as I guess some of these trainers like to call you, the pack leader. Well, if you're ever going to be a pack leader, that's the time to do it, is when they're a puppy. I'm not really big on the whole pack leadership concept, but when it comes to a puppy, you are the leader, and you're not the follower. Wouldn't you agree, Christoph?
Yeah, this is there's quite a few things now. Like I said, this could be a whole series of episodes, and we're trying to stay at what the initial puppy owner or acquiring the new puppy person, they should be aware of, to know these things, to raise their consciousness, to be prepared. And some of the things they need to be prepared for is that you're going to have mistakes, you're going to have problems. The dog is going to have accidents on the floor. He may accidentally grab something. Robert's talking about the chewing phase. You got to get prepared for that. Now, my dog, my monster dog, this is kind of funny, kind of funny, kind of not funny. It's funny after the fact. Okay, the monster, he's an American bulldog. He's like over 110 pounds. He's a monster dog, right? But when he was a puppy, and he's going through the teething stage and coming out of the teething stage, and he was kind of a gargoyle, looked like a gargoyle at that time period. He's about 40-something pounds. He ate my damn sofa. Where I was at, he tore apart the whole damn sofa. Came out there, and the monster dog he wasn't a monster then, but he was eating. I was like, Kuma, what the hell are you doing? You know, and it's like, yeah, I wasn't a new sofa. I wasn't super attached to it, but there it was. It's gone, you know, and you have to be prepared for those things. I didn't take it out on him. I didn't do anything wrong. It's because you're the one who you have to plan for success, failure. And this is one of the things to start early with, because whether you like it or not, if you're a dog owner, you are a dog trainer. That's what I'm trying to get across, is that, and then we're trying to raise your ability, your skill level. That's what Robert and I are talking about in all these podcasts. We're raising your ability, and we're not just giving you techniques and methodology. We're giving you insight that takes, as we said, years and years operational experience to acquire. That's what you're not going to get anywhere else. Plus, you're getting the viewpoint of a tactical guy in a movie, TV dog trainer, and I think we understand dogs better than 98% of other people who are dog trainers. So you've got to set yourself up for success. And one of those things is like, if you're going to allow the dogs to get on any furniture or get on beds, you start it then, but you don't start it and stop it. This is something you don't do. You don't change your mind, because once it's got to be, as Robert said, there's no maybes. There's either all the
Well,
time.
sometimes. No.
Yeah, there's only all the time or no time. That's it. You don't vacillate. And that's one of the things about moving the furniture, because that throws them off, because they don't know. Maybe they could get on that. You allowed them on this chair, but not on the sofa or something else, which can be done. But you move the furniture around. So now the sofa's where the chair used to be, and so they're headed to the same spot. Because like I told you, people, listen to the other podcasts, dogs are about location, and that's why we train off of location and not position. One of the many reasons we do that. And so you got to set yourself up for success. One of the things Robert mentioned in one of our last podcasts, and something I've been saying for a long time, is all the great trainers. Robert was talking about why was Lee Duncan, why was his grandfather so good with the famous dogs? Like, why was Lee Duncan so great with Rin Tin Tin? Because he spent every damn waking moment with the dog. He knew the dog in and out. He did everything. He could talk about reading the dog. He could read the dog. Same with Rudd Weatherwax, with Pal, one of the many dogs. He knew the dog because he spent all the time with the dog. This is where it starts. This is where it starts right here. Robert's talking about they're selecting the dogs that would go on to be the starring dog for the TV series Lassie, and that they're picking this dog, and then they would pick who's going to be the stand-in, who's going to be the stunt double, all these things. They're looking at the attributes. That's something else, but what I'm saying here is there's no way to do that if you're not paying attention to your dogs, and if you start young, you'll know, because I'm certain, Robert, you were asked, like, oh, well, what do you think about whatever? What do you think about Spook? What do you think Spook can do? Or what do you think Hey can do? They probably, which is, you were growing up around the dogs, you were around the dogs more. They're getting your feedback, and this is what goes to one of our other episodes about being an apprentice, learning. So, Robert, you want to fill that bit in for people about how you can learn to read dogs because you're starting when they're puppies?
Yeah, absolutely, because you see their tendencies, and actually a lot of the tendencies that they display later in life are actually ones that you inadvertently had given them. Sometimes when we look at our dogs, especially dogs that have been owned since they were puppies, because I always ask the clients, how long have you had this dog? Oh, I've had him since I was a puppy. So right off the bat, I know that they're going to have a better bond with their dog than the normal person who just got the dog a week ago from the shelter. And who knows what kind of history comes along with that dog, right? Those are things you'll find out, but those are things that you can fix with the help of a professional trainer. The bond that Christoph's talking about, it can sometimes be a problem when you're dealing with a family situation, though. I should mention that. Now, Rudd, keep in mind, he was bonding with Lassie because he was going to be the one who was going to be working with Lassie. He didn't need Betty or somebody else. He needed me because I simulated the boy, right? Because Lassie always had a boy. So if it was John Provost working with the dog, then I would be simulating John Provost. Now, in a household, it's different because you have a dog that sometimes gets too wrapped up in one person and actually becomes kind of protective about other people being around that person. And we inadvertently praise dogs when they growl at people because we think it's cute. But it's really a sign of something that could be problematic later. So what I tend to tell people is to share the duties with your dog. Like, in other words, the wife feeds the dog breakfast, and then the daughter feeds the dog at lunch when she's home, and then maybe the father feeds the dog in the evening. So you have some balance within your household. You don't have the puppy so wrapped up in the one person that he can't function without that person being there. You need to have a lot of different lifelines. Don't I know it's flattering that, oh, my dog loves me better than he loves my husband, but it's not. It's not cute. I don't think it's cute, and it's not going to end up being cute later with some dogs. Some dogs, it can be downright frustrating what they become when they get coddled by only one person. So keep those things in mind, and also keep in mind that we are available for training, whether that's
Yeah.
dog training, behavioral problems. Christoph and I have about a century of experience between us as far as being able to contact us for training. I work here in East Texas, and I'll probably be in the future working a little bit more in Dallas.
Yeah, well, something I want to say that we don't have to be in your location because we can do consults. We can do video. The thing is that we can do consults right now too, and we do. I just did
Yeah.
one last
Yeah,
week.
Zoom calls. We
Yeah.
can do Zoom calls, and we can give you
Skype.
instructional guidance.
Yeah.
We can actually guide you through the process with your dog, just the way that we're guiding you right now. It can be done, and it's interactive. So if you have a question,
Yeah.
you're able to get a quick answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to peel an onion, and I'd love to be able to work with people outside of my area, as would Christoph, because we want to share our techniques, because when we're gone, so are a lot of those techniques that have been around for so long that people think are outdated. But the fact of the matter is that we're still using it, and it works just as well as it did 50 years ago. And we want to leave that to all you people, so that you can carry it on to your children and their grandchildren, so that they can know how the old school trainers trained, right, Christoph?
Well, I would say yeah, it's a legacy. It's a legacy event, but I wouldn't call us old as in archaic, as in being eclipsed. I would say more as productive. But what we're doing is we're productive. Everything I do, I don't have my ideology is based around results. Same thing with the other stuff that I do, my other business stuff, and my other pursuits. It's all about producing results and the goal. And the same thing, Robert's, and the same thing with the movie trainers. It's about the producing results. It's not about trying to convince you, oh, I had a great time and blah blah blah. No, it's producing results, and that's what we're trying to do. But we know ways that other people don't know, and again, we have all this years of experience that you're not going to find. You just can't find, and that's a fact. That's just a fact. And I'm doing things, and if you're a videographer, we can use a couple of them, because there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that I'm piled up on it, because no one has matched me on things I've done on YouTube right now. I mean, Omar Van Mueller probably can if he starts working at it. But besides that, the other people are not keeping up with me, and that's not my limits. I don't have a videographer to film some of the stuff that I'm capable and some of my dogs are capable of doing. And the same thing with Robert's doing stuff all the time. Robert doesn't have a personal dog right now, so it's all client based. So you can see actual results from dogs that are not his, because some people, well, that's your dog, it's your personal dog, and blah 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 blah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, of course the dog should be, because it has more invested in the dog. But again, I'm using all different types of dogs. I'm using American Bulldogs, Jungle Dogs, Super Dogs, hunting dogs. So I'm pulling off stuff that you don't see people do with some of the dogs. What I got to say here is that, again, it's important that you understand that the puppy is in a huge range of topics, and we'll be talking more about puppies, picking and choosing the dog for you. There's a podcast we have about that, so go back and look at that one. But there are many things, and also Robert alluded to that 10 weeks or even 12 weeks is good. But if you can keep the dog with the mother, and some of the litter mates are still around, 10 to 12 weeks will make the dog better. It will make the dog better. But if you have ability, if you live close to where you're going to get the dog, you can start visiting the dog all the time, like from 7 weeks on. You'll have an incredible relationship, because when you take the dog, it won't be a big shock, because we didn't talk about how huge the shock is. One of the things that you can do if you're bringing the dog in that we didn't talk about, you don't hear all these millennials and sub-millennials talking about, is that you can put a clock, one of the wind-up type of clocks inside the area where the dog sleeps, is because this sort of imitates the ticking. It sort of emulates the mother's heartbeat, which they're used to. It gives them a frame of reference to be calm and to be secure, because what we want to do is create a secure, safe area. Everybody wants that. Every dog wants that. Every cat wants that. We all want that, especially where you sleep. You don't want to sleep in a place that's a war zone. You can't sleep, So anyway, but that's what I have to say. Once again, we didn't cover everything. We delved into it somewhat, and like, share, and subscribe, because I think we're putting new value that you're not getting with other people, other dog trainers. Anything else you want to add, Robert?
No, I'll just tell you that as far as seeing some of those videos that I've been doing recently, the ones I've been able to commandeer my clients to do, is on some of them are on Instagram. If you look for me, you might find my dad, you might find my grandfather. So it gets a little confusing sometimes as to which one of these guys is the right guy. Well, just remember, it's the youngest guy. That's me. So back to Christoph, and he can wrap it up.
Yeah, and that's it. So we'll see you guys.